in danger, girl. Like, you should have been hit the panic button.
No, it was
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now. I'm Alicia J, and I'm here with Ashley Nicole Moss. How are you doing, Ashley?
Hello. I'm doing well. I'm back in Miami. I had a very crazy travel day yesterday. I feel like I've been moving around a lot these past 2 weeks, and I'm somebody who really just likes my routine, my space, my environment. So I'm happy to get back into that. An airport will not be seeing me anytime soon. How about you, Alicia?
No, that's great news. An airport won't be seeing me for probably, I think I leave like early next month for a lot of travel. But I also, I live in the Bay Area, so I was a part of the NBA All-Star festivities, and actually, I'm just not cut out for it anymore. Like, your girl can't stay out late and get up early. It's just not, It's not in my cards anymore.
Yeah,
still recovering.
We're not spring chickens anymore, as they say.
Not at all. I actually wore heels to one of the events that I went to, which I haven't worn heels in so long. And I was like, nope, not doing this again. I love a great heel, but in order for me to wear them moving forward, I have to know I'm sitting down. Like we have to make sure it. Yeah. Otherwise, sneakers and a cute fit. Like that's it.
We're throbbing the next morning. Were you in pain?
No, actually, and listen, I'm going to admit that in the middle of the night, I had leg cramps.
You got a Charlie horse.
Yeah. I had every, muscle cramp you could have in your legs. I said, what's happening? I had to get up and walk it off in the middle of the night. Not my whole body being sore off some heels. I was like, oh, no.
Look at that.
But actually, listen. We're recovering in every way, but we're also recovering because it's been a big, big week in sports. We have so much that we have to talk about. One is Caitlin Clark's agent had a lot to say about her worth. So we're definitely going to dive into that because it was an article that everyone shared the moment it came out. A lot of conversations around that. So, we got to talk about it. It's also been a big week in college basketball. There's always WNBA expansion news coming out, which is really exciting, and so much more. I mean, listen, get ready to talk.
A lot more. Before we start talking, we got to remind you about some housekeeping, and that is to follow us on all the social media platforms. Alicia is pointing to them below. Insta, Twitter, X, whatever you call it, TikTok, all the good things. We're on every single platform you can imagine. But to see all full-length episodes, interviews, behind the scenes, special edition things, you got to be subscribed to YouTube and make sure you are subscribed, notifications turned all the way up, because that's where we post a lot of content. And scan this QR code here if you are more of a podcast listener, and we will pop up wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple, so there's no reason to not be tapped in with us right here at We Need to Talk Now.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason. And if you're not tapped in, you're not going to get these conversations that we're having about college sports. And right now, like we said, been a big week. We're in the middle. We just released our power rankings with CBS Sports, but we're going to talk all about who's at the top, all the big games that are happening. But in other news, Lauren Betts came up with an injury, unfortunately. She had a right foot injury. She was actually seen in a boot, which doesn't necessarily mean, that's the best form of rest for a foot injury. As someone who's been in a boot many times, I understand it looks worse than it is. Yeah, it looks worse than it is. So, wishing her the best of recovery and health. Paige Beckers set a record. She passed Rebecca Lobo on the all-time scoring list, which is crazy. And it was a full circle amazing moment as Rebecca Lobo was actually the announcer for that game. So just imagine surpassing a legend that is right there at the game calling it. So that's pretty cool. Nafisa Collier was named the first ever one-on-one champ, taking the title over Aaliyah Edwards, who Aaliyah Edwards was dominating. She shut out. So amazing to see. But that one-on-one, I loved watching it. I want to see more of that. It was so good. It was so competitive. Absolutely loved it. And then Sue Bird and Maya Moore were named to the Basketball Hall of Fame finalists, which I was like, how is Maya Moore not already there? But anyway, so yeah, that was really cool to see too.
Yes, and speaking of cool to see, empowering to see, happy to see, I mean, insert a positive adjective. Penn State volleyball coach Katie Schumacher Cowley announced that she is officially cancer-free. Let's clap that up. I absolutely love to hear that. I think that everybody in the world, unfortunately, or at least in your inner circle, knows somebody who either has dealt with cancer, has passed from cancer, or is currently fighting through cancer. It's one of the very unfortunate realities of, I feel like, the world that we live in, and just how much of a disease and just life ridding, just ugly disease cancer is. So whenever you can hear of somebody fighting it and being officially cancer free, it is worth the celebration. We are so, so happy to hear that.
Absolutely.
The Connecticut Sun have denied Marina Mabrey's request from February 5th. Sun president, the Sun's president rather spoke about it and said, quote, "We are not hitting the panic button. We knew at the time she had already forced her way out of 2 teams. So it was a bit risky for us to trade for her, but we felt it was worth it." She then added that the Sun are resetting the team's culture and asked fans to, quote, "trust that we are retooling in a way that in a couple of years, they're going to forget this moment." That was a lot.
Well, it was a lot. I think it was the same person, or maybe not even the president, but somebody in that same article said that they're not hitting the panic button yet. And it's like, you in danger, girl. Like, you should have been hit the panic
No,
button.
it was a Sun president. She told Sportico that we're not hitting the panic button. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the panic button should have been hit already. I mean, you look at the team that is not, I mean, no offense to the players that are still in the team, but the team is definitely completely different than it was. You have not announced that you're changing a lot of the things that the players had a problem with in the first place to want to leave your franchise. And then you're also in articles saying things like, other GMs talk to us in ways that weren't great, and doing all of this and putting a lot of blame in other places, and also airing out some laundry that doesn't really need to be aired out. So there's a lot of things that are going on.
And I also just feel like that was a nasty way to throw a player under a bus.
1000%.
Like, we all can look up articles, we could all look up previous trade requests or whatever. Like, I just feel like that was, she should be grateful we even traded for her, because we know how she moves in this business. And I'm sure a lot of people were surprised. Like, all right, calm down, pump the brakes. Like, that was nasty.
That was nasty. But also, in addition to that, it makes me question what you're doing. So if you're saying we knew all of these risks, but we still went after her, well, then why did you do that? Right. Like, I don't necessarily agree with what they said, but you're the one who made the decision to do it when you had all of the information, right? Yeah. So come on now. Yeah. Like, that article just, it was like, if you are talking about not hitting the panic button, you just propelled yourself into panic, putting all of that
panic button. Yeah. Well, a team that's not hitting the panic button are the Indiana Fever. They signed Brianna Turner, giving them some depth in the front court. Lexi Hall said that her 2025 season goal is winning a WNBA championship on Locked On Women's Basketball Pod. DeWanna Bonner said that similar statements, said, quote, "I want to win a championship," during her intro presser. Meanwhile, some news also from the Fever. They released Katie Lou Samsolin and Erica Wheeler. Caitlin Clark, also speaking about the Indiana Fever, said, quote, "This is the franchise in all of women's sports." So Indiana Fever making some moves. cooking and doing everything that they need to do to give Caitlin Clark their young team and just to capitalize on what we saw last season. And they're so far making all the right moves, doing all the right things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've said it on the pod before. I really expect them to go far, if not win the whole thing. So I would definitely agree with a lot of this. The moves that they've made have been amazing, like very strategic. And from the coach on down, right? So I'm really looking forward to see what the team does this year. Obviously we don't know, barring any injuries or anything like that. I mean, there's so many things that can happen. The season isn't even close to starting yet, but seeing what they're doing and the pieces that they're putting together and what, the trajectory is for what they're doing, I'm really excited to see what does happen for the franchise. So, and a lot of people, Caitlin saying that this is the franchise, who, if I'm on it, of course I'm going to say that, like, why wouldn't she?
Listen, Caitlin, talk that talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's going to be your biggest fan. You got to be your biggest fan. You know what
Period.
I mean? So,
Period. Yes. And one of her biggest fans is her agent, Erin Kane. And on Monday, in an article that came out from ESPN, her agent was saying a lot of stuff about Caitlin Clark. And she said that she does not think that Caitlin Clark will ever be paid her true worth by the league. We actually have a quote here. The person interviewing said, "Will Caitlin Clark ever be paid by the WNBA what she's really worth to that league?" And Erin said, "I don't think that's possible. She's part of a larger player body. They all need to be paid more. She should be recognized for what she has done and what she's brought to the league from an economic standpoint. It's as simple as that." And, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about this. She also went on to say that she's very, very hopeful for the current CBA negotiations and pushing the line forward on player salaries. And the most important thing has always been getting WNBA players paid for what they do on the court. And so it's important to note that, obviously she's not an agent just for Caitlin. She has a lot of WNBA players underneath her as well. And to me, as I understand that Caitlin is, one of her clients, probably, I don't want to say her biggest one, but definitely one that she focuses a lot on, I'm sure. And so she's going to say this. But, the overall arching thing for me is just pay the players. And that's always been something that we've been talking about. And I really, really think we're going to see that. We have to, as a matter of fact, see that in the CBA negotiations, because the players aren't going to settle for less, period. They want that revenue share. They want what they're owed based on what, the TV deal is and all of these things. And they should be, because this is a league that everyone has their eyes on. The popularity, you can even see it in how much the new franchises are worth coming in. The money is there. It's coming in, spades, like it's all over the place. Like money is coming and the players deserve to get it. And so I'm glad that is what this article ultimately conveyed. I think it was like a little weird the way that it came through. And a lot of people had things to say about positioning just Caitlin Clark, which I agree with, because she's not the only player that brought in revenue. She's not the only player who's bringing in eyes. She's brought in a lot. Her impact is great, but you could say the same thing for the entire rookie class that came in last year, and other players as well that are existing that are bringing in so many eyes to this league. So, the article is a little weird in its positioning, but ultimately what it's saying is true and it must happen.
Yeah, I don't listen. It's some of the players she represents also, Enrique, Fee, so I don't have an issue with what she said or how she said it. A job of an agent is to push their client, and that's what she was doing. I think that the underlining message of what she said, at least right now, I think that I agree with, and it's not just a Caitlin Clark thing. I think that I was reading while you were talking about just looking at the revenue of the WNBA over the years. So if you look at it from an economic standpoint, right, the issue is that because the league hasn't been profitable for most of its existence, it's still very much in the red and it's not operating in the black yet, right? So what happens then is with the new CBA, yes, the numbers are going to go up because you have the media rights and all of the things surrounding it also going up. But then the owners who have been putting money into their franchises, if they own one, are going to want their return. So then that makes the pot smaller to give back to the players and to give all the things that they want. So in a sense, I hear what she's saying. When you look at leagues like the NBA and the NFL, who have been profitable since essentially their existence, that's why the owners and the players are able to make such exorbitant amount of money. I mean, if you look at what the NBA players are making, you're talking about $300 million deals. And also they've been around longer than the WNBA and they've been profitable longer. So the issue is that the WNBA has to figure out how to, while giving back to the owners who have put in and want the return on their investment, rightfully so, because they have been putting into something that is just now getting profitable for them, also figuring out how to make it profitable then for the players playing in the league. That's where it gets tricky, because it's now like, well, how do we make sure that everybody is paid their value when we owe so much money to the people who have been putting into it to help bring it to this point in where it is, right? So I hear what she's saying regarding Caitlin Clark. I don't think Caitlin Clark's the only reason why the WNBA has become profitable. It's been 25 plus years of working and grinding to this point. Now, yes, it has skyrocketed in the last season, in part due to her star power. I think we all know that. We have all said that. We're not going to argue that. We know what it is. We know what the numbers are. We know what the viewership numbers are. We got it. We're good. We're clear on that. I think in terms of maybe what she was saying in terms of that skyrocket right now, the WNBA couldn't pay her what they're paying, say, John Morant or an Anthony Edwards or any of the young stars in the NBA. The money's just not there. And even if it is there, it's not there enough to give her that kind of a salary and then still be able to pay other players who are also worth an exorbitant amount of money what they're worth. So in a sense, I get what she's saying. It's going to be interesting how the CBA is going to reconstruct player salaries while also giving back to owners who have put money into franchises and are going to look for their return. That's the biggest thing that I'm interested about when this new CBA comes, because I don't want the players to get the short end of the stick in order to give the ROI back to the people who have been funding these franchises for 20 plus years. That's really what I'm looking at when the CBA comes out.
Well, there's a couple things that I want to say about that. One is the owners are getting their money tenfold in their investment. The teams are worth so much more now than they were when they purchased them, that they're getting their money back in that. They could sell their team tomorrow and make a boatload of money. That's one thing that when you invest in a sports team, it's that long-term investment that you're looking for as well. Mm-hmm. You can say that the NBA has been profitable since its existence, but not every team has been profitable every year based on their attendance, record, all of those things. So there's that. They're getting that back that the players aren't even going to touch. Like, that is an investment that is for them and them only, right? But then you also have to look at the revenue sharing. One thing, and Kelsey Plum has talked about this, she in that interview that she had that went viral, she's not seen a cent. Well, maybe now, I'm not sure. But she had, at the time of that interview, she had not seen a cent from a jersey sale. So at the time, she had not seen a cent. So that kind of stuff needs to be done for sure. So when you're talking about that revenue share, that's part of it. So in addition to getting, the reflection and percentage of what the TV deal is, you also need to get that revenue share in merchandise and, everything that goes underneath that. So all of that really, to me, has nothing to do with, like, the owner should obviously get their share, but for the players to not have a share, period, that's an issue.
No, absolutely.
So I am really looking forward to it, because I know that the way that the players are moving, they know their worth, they know what they deserve. And, them opting out is one of the, I guess, like, things that is showing us that they're not going to play. when it comes to the CBA. So I look
Mhm.
forward to seeing what they get, because while it may not be fully what like a Caitlin Clark would deserve now, it's going to be better than it ever has been. And it should be a blockbuster deal for them.
No,
And
right.
that's what I'm
And
looking
I
forward
think
to
that
seeing.
I think that's what she's saying is that right now, this may not be the case 10 years from now, 15 years from now, but right now, there's probably not an even line going from what a player is actually worth and bringing to the league and what, when you incorporate the new CBA revenue sharing, hopefully that's in there as well, and all the other things that can equal, that can then that line be drawn back to that player, it probably still won't be even. Whereas you look at, just think about it in terms of the amount of Caitlin Clark jerseys that will be sold and the percentage still won't equal what she is worth in terms of dollars and cents. And I think that that's what she's saying. But the realistic reasoning for that is the league's just not there yet. And the idea is not for the league to be there yet after this new CBA, but for this new CBA to make it so that one day the league can be there. So while I hear what she's saying, yeah, more than likely, it's still not going to equal what she's
Right.
worth. It's still not going to equal what an Angel Reese is worth. It's still not going to equal worth insert player. But that's because you're also now trying to turn over a whole new leaf, have a whole new narrative in the WNBA that has not existed in the past 20 plus years. And you're operating and changing what the status quo has been. So I get what she's saying. She's not wrong in terms of, the economic equations that will go into it. But there's really nothing that will ever, at least at this moment with this new CBA, we're not going to get this in the next 6 months. It's just not there yet. So I hope that also, before we move on, WNBA fans know that it's going to be a process. This new CBA is not going to fix everything overnight. That's not how things work. But you want to have the policies in place. Sorry, my voice just cracked. Policies in place that hopefully the next CBA, you're in a much better position from every single thing we just discussed to then negotiate an even bigger CBA that benefits the players even more. It's a process. And that's just what I want. We're not going to get everything in this next CBA, but we hope that we get a lot of what we want. And that's what we can all hope for.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, from Caitlin Clark to back where we first got introduced to her on a global scale, we're going to talk some college basketball. And that is recapping Sunday's doubleheader. JuJu Watkins, the name that we mentioned time and time again on this show. You might have heard of her. She had another generational performance, 38 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 8 blocks, all against UCLA. The first player with 35, 5 and 5 in a game in the last 20 seasons across all of Division One. Alicia, all of Division One. I mean,
I
JuJu is
mean,
her. She is her. I'm telling you.
she is her. JuJu Watkins is a generational player. She's a player that when you watch her,
And so
you
is her
know, her bun definitely is. Even though she's still learning how to do it. I don't know if you all saw that, but her mom would be doing her bun, which I think is
Yes, she
very
told
cute.
me her mom does it.
Yeah, which is very, very cute. But when you watch JuJu play, she's just one of those players where, and I hate to say this because it's very cliche, but basketball just runs through her veins. Like she is a baller through and through. And she's only going to get better because that's what ballers do. So not only, is she good right now, but we're going to see her improve. And these numbers are even like, I don't know how you improve these numbers, but we're going to see this time and time again from her because she just is, like you said, she's her. She is an amazing, phenomenal player to watch. And I don't know, the sky is the limit for JuJu. I mean,
And I feel like we have seen her make such strides from freshman year to sophomore year that I'm
yeah,
so excited. I know I'm looking too far ahead, but I'm so excited to see her junior year. It's just like every time you think she can't get better, or she can't elevate certain parts of her game because she's already so phenomenal, then she comes back next season and you're like, okay, so she did that. Like, and then it's like,
Right.
now you're almost excited for this season to end so you can see her come back junior year to see how she's going to be even more dominant, even more impactful, even more generational. I said this when I met her, and I've said this when she was a freshman. I know everybody loves Caitlin Clark and was huge Caitlin Clark fans, but I'm telling you, JuJu is her. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
she is her. She is the one that's going to take this torch that Caitlin has lit for the WNBA. She's going to implode it. I'm telling you, when she gets into the W, it's going to be different. So I'm very excited. But speaking of different, Alicia, it's different that we are on this show talking about a South Carolina loss. And it's different that we're on this show not talking just about a South Carolina loss, but a South Carolina loss in such a dominant fashion. You're shaking your head, and you have every right to, because UConn absolutely dominated South Carolina. They snapped South Carolina's 71 game winning streak that dated back to 2020. Okay, so I we're going to talk about that in just 1 second. We also have to show some love to Vanderbilt freshman phenom Mikayla Blakes for putting up 55 points, the most by a freshman ever in a single game, besting her own record of 53 points set in January. She is the first NCAA D1 player this century with 55 points and 5 assists in a game. Lot to unpack here, but first,
Listen.
South
Well,
Carolina.
well, I just want to say with her, she deserves so much more, I would say, spotlight than what I
Yes.
feel like she's getting.
Second 50-point
When
game this season, by the way.
right, and when you're breaking your own records, I
You
mean,
say
come on
that.
now, like that's amazing in every way. Just want to give her, just all the round of applause and claps. Just keep playing the way that you're playing. You're killing it. And, she's one of those players where she deserves, just as much accolades as any other player. So definitely keep an eye out on her because she's, breaking her own records. Come on now. Let's go.
We love to hear that. We love to see that. And speaking of breaking records, I mean, Alicia, it's very rare, like I said, that we're talking about a South Carolina loss on this show. And we're definitely not talking about South Carolina getting absolutely dominated on this show. What happened?
Okay. So there are days as a player in a team where you go into a game and you just ain't got it. Like, you just do not have it. And Dawn Staley herself was like, that was an F performance, like literally gave it an F. And she's not wrong. I don't want to lessen what UConn did because they played a great game. But it was just one of those when you're watching it, you're like, I mean, not to say they shouldn't have showed up, but they didn't show up, So it was kind of a hard thing to watch. And obviously with the streaks that South Carolina has, you hate to see it. But at the same time, and we've talked about this before with South Carolina, I feel like those moments almost fuel them more than they take away from their game because it shows them that, like, at the end of the day, we are human beings who are playing basketball. Yeah. And while we have all of this success and we are good, no doubt, and we have an amazing coach who is leading us in this way, we're human. There are things that are going to happen and we have to learn how to bounce back from that and work through it.
Absolutely.
I would watch that game more than any other game I've watched this year to see how we can improve in real time and not be in that position where at the end of the game, our coach is giving us an F for the whole thing because we just mailed it in. And, that's probably not the right term, but you understand what I'm saying. So, to be a champion, and especially the way that women's college basketball right now is with all the teams, and there's just like a battle for the top person right now. There isn't we can get into that a little bit later, but you have to be able to work through those moments when maybe you don't have it that day or whatever. You have to be able to surpass being bad in a game, you have to be able to bounce back. You have to be able to make in-game adjustments. So, I think this is only going to help them in the long run, just like every other kind
I
of like
agree.
loss that they've had.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on just kind of like the fashion in which
No,
they
I mean,
lost?
listen, sometimes, every dog has its day. Sometimes you just don't have it. Sometimes someone just has your number. And I don't think it's going to be like the thing that breaks their season. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's, again, no knock to what UConn did. They're a great basketball team. They're a great coach team. They have a great roster of players. But I don't think that this is the defining thing for South Carolina. We know what they're capable of. And listen, sometimes, and I say this, sometimes winning too much is a bad thing because you don't know what it's like to lose. And you don't remember what it feels like to lose. And you don't know adversity. And you don't know how to go back into that locker room embarrassed and pull yourself out of that and say, all right, I never want to feel this again. So how are we going to fix this? Sometimes you need those little sprinkles of disappointment throughout a season because when it comes time to play for the whole thing, you now know, one, you're not unbeatable, two, you're not invincible, and three, just because you had this killer record doesn't mean that that record's live forever. And you got to fight just as hard as everybody else does for this Danny, which is wide open. And I think it's good for them. It builds character. It builds endurance, it builds perseverance, it builds all that good stuff. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, and if you look at the top teams right now in women's college basketball, they're all handing losses to each other too, because it's so competitive. And that's why, I mean, the rankings are vastly changing every time we see them, because everyone is playing good basketball. Like, it's really exciting to me right now that there isn't a clear, there's a discussion on who could win the Natty this year, but
Mm-hmm.
there isn't like this clear team that you're like, they got it on lock. And I actually love that. I think that, women's basketball or basketball in general is better to me when it's not like that because everyone can get it.
Mm-hmm.
There are a major exciting games night in and night out. It's bringing more people to the game because they're watching all of these amazing games every single night leading up to this. So it's creating narratives that are locking people in. It's an
Mm-hmm.
exciting time to me in women's college basketball right now, the way that it's shaping up.
For
So
sure.
really looking forward to watching it. And one thing that I would look forward to watching is Lisa Leslie as a head coach of a WNBA team. I would love to see it. Right now, I'm going to have to get myself together because what we're about to talk about makes me very upset and mad on many levels. But on a recent episode of Unapologetically Angel, which, by the way, Angel, do your thing on this podcast. Like,
Mhm.
her podcast is so good. And I remember that one of the things when she met Lisa for the first time, she said she wanted to do what she did as like a commentator, and she wants to do that. And she is really good at interviewing people. I love watching her episodes. I just want to give that as a side note. And this one is no different because she asked Lisa if we would ever see you coaching in the WNBA. And Lisa unfortunately had this to say. She said, I put my name in a hat to coach this year for two teams, all the way down to the end. I won't say who those two teams are, but I did not get picked. And I felt like I would never make another attempt to go into coaching in the WNBA because, it's like you got to be 10 times as great as a Black woman in this industry. And when I tell you that who these people hired is not better than me and what I can do for this team and players, I will never attempt to coach in the WNBA again. Ashley, when you hear this, what are your initial thoughts? I have some, but I got to get them together because we can't curse on this pod. Go ahead.
Wow. I mean, I sent you guys this clip when I saw it, and I was flabbergasted by it. And I think I said something in our group chat. It's not a direct quote, but if like Lisa Leslie ain't qualified, then who is? You know what I mean? So, I don't really even have words to describe. I mean, we're talking about a 2-time champion, 3-time MVP, 2-time finals MVP, a 4-time gold medalist. the list of her accomplishments goes on. And I'm not knocking anybody who has jobs currently in the WNBA as a head coach or on the coaching staff, but there are names that we have talked about on this show that like couldn't even hold a candle to Lisa Leslie. So I just don't understand what the criteria is. And if Lisa don't fit the criteria, then nobody fits the criteria. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to keep it cute and classy, and I'm going to leave it right there.
And I concur everything that you said.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that when it comes to having Lisa Leslie as a head coach, she is more than qualified. Let's be clear. A lot of people are saying, oh, she only has coached in 3-on-3 and all of that stuff. That right there is coaching experience. Okay. It is coaching experience. She's also an analyst. She has an amazing basketball mind. She's obviously been a player that has excelled in every single facet of the game. And she is Lisa Leslie. So for me, on top of it just being egregious that you would not hire her, it's also a bad business practice, because can you imagine how wild people would go to have Lisa Leslie as a head coach? Players are coming to play. People are watching. People love the story. It's just, on top of it, it doesn't make sense for you not to have her as a coach. So not only are you not hiring her for some reason, we can talk all day about what the reasons are, but she said it best when she said, as a Black woman, you have to be 10 times as great. We could say that for what we're doing, Ashley. That is a true statement, and I'm going to keep it at that, because she was absolutely right when she said that. But also, she is a legend in this game. You bring her down to the wire and tell her no, that is disrespectful as well. So when I hear this, and when I see a legend in this game saying, I am not going to attempt to try again because of the way that I was treated and the disrespect, and I'm saying that, she didn't say that specifically, but the disrespect that I got, it is disheartening. It is a reality, unfortunately. It's hard to see, but it is in every single facet of this world for a Black woman, and I am sick about it. I hate to see this on every level, but unfortunately, I'm not shocked or surprised.
Yeah, it's that was the part that was kind of hard to hear, was that she won't try again. I understand.
But I don't blame her either. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm fired up right now. But if
I understand it. It's just that was the hardest, I think, to hear, outside of everything else that she was saying, and the fact that she didn't even get a call back or whatever the case. That I think for me, that was like the nail in the coffin. That was the very sad reality of Lisa Leslie and all Black women in this country's experience when it comes to certain positions, industries, whatever the case may be. Just that was the part that was just really hard to hear, because she's just such a giant in the world of basketball, and to hear that situation broke her to the point where she's like, nah, I'm good, was really hard to hear. So
right. Well, and people want to talk about this experience thing too. I want to make this very, very clear. There are so many NBA coaches that have gone into coaching that have never had 1 ounce of experience at all, period. Like literally, I mean, you could go down the line, JJ Redick, Steve Nash, Steve Kerr, and I'm not negating what they've done as coaches at all, but I'm just saying that is not something that other people have to deal with. It's just like, okay, cool, let them have a chance. And in this case, it's like, well, what about her experience? I don't want to hear that either. Lisa Leslie is Lisa Leslie. She should be a coach in this league, period. Full stop.
Yeah. Well, there are going to be some more head coach vacancies available, because over the weekend, news broke from SBJ, the Sports Business Journal, that the WNBA is preparing to award Cleveland its 16th franchise. The team is expected to join the league as the Reprise Cleveland Rockers, an original WNBA franchise that folded after its 2003 season, with the chances of expansion franchise being awarded as high as 90%. So it hasn't been 100% confirmed yet, but it's pretty close that they will be awarded the next expansion team. Now, also with the news, and to the league could award one or two franchises, excuse me, to the league as well, bringing the total of teams to 18, with Philadelphia and Houston as the current front runners. Reportedly, the reason for the 18 teams is that there have been multiple expansion bids approaching $250 million. Now, a WNBA spokesperson gave a statement and said that, quote, the WNBA has received formal bids from many interested ownership groups in various markets, and we are currently in process of evaluating these proposals. Now, the announcement is expected no later than March, so that would be just in a couple of weeks. We know February is a short month. Now, the WNBA is clearly bringing at least some value to shareholders if bids are reportedly reaching $250 million. Now, there was some interesting rhetoric that I'm interested to get your take on, Alicia, on social media from WNBA fans that had some concerns about how rapidly the WNBA is expanding instead of figuring out how to perfect the teams that are already in existence in the league, adding to more teams that they have to worry about when they have not yet figured out how to do right by the players and the teams that are already in existence. What is your thoughts on that? Because that was a big conversation, and I kind of understood both sides of that argument when it came to WNBA fans. So I'm interested to hear your side of it.
Yes, I do see both sides of that argument. That's what I was going to say. I see why people would be concerned, but I would hope, I'm not saying this is a case, but that the WNBA has built out infrastructure for this to make it successful, because you should have. You know, I mean, you see the growth of the league, you see the growth of the college players that were coming up. It's like, this should be forecasted in a way. So I would hope, and I'm not saying that it is, but I would hope that they would have things built and in place to ensure that these, you know, expansion teams would be successful, because expansion is a great thing. You know, you're getting your teams in more cities, you have more players that can play, you're giving people more opportunity. And obviously the money, if you're approaching $250 million bids, the money is there. The want to have teams are there. There are a lot of people on this list, a lot of cities on this list, I should say, that I know want the W there and have a fan base already worked in. So I think it's a great thing, but if they're not prepared for it, that's a whole nother ball game. So I would hope that someone in there saw what was happening, because we saw this happening years ago, and would put in some type of infrastructure plan, everything, to make sure that these teams that are either coming back or being created in these cities are successful. And I also think too, the ownership groups that are coming in to put in these bids, and the ones that have gained the bids, that they have a solid plan as well, and solid money to be able to make these franchises what they should and need to be. So there's that component of it either. But I definitely see both sides of the story, because traditionally, let's just be clear, there have been balls that have been dropped in a lot of different ways. And so I can see why people would have those feelings, but the day is here. Like, the new dawn is dawning. So please be ready, please.
Yeah, I agree. I hope that the infrastructure is there. Because there's a lot of improvements that can be made with the teams that are already in existence and the players that are already in this league. And I would hate to see greed be the reason for expansion when there wasn't really a plan in place to do right by, or to make better with what's already in existence in the WNBA. Because sometimes people see dollar signs and that's the only thing they focus on, but then forget these are real people with real families that are tied to these teams and tied to the organizations. And if you're not prepared to do better and to do right by all teams, then just pump your brakes a little bit and be okay with how the league is right now. The fact that the league has made so many strides, And once you get that situation rocking and rolling, then start talking about expansion. Those cities aren't going anywhere. Like the expansion will be there. I don't want greed to be the reason it's expanded, but we're not doing right by the women and the men who are part of these coaching staffs and these teams and these rosters. That's what I would hate to see. So while we wait to see which of the teams will become the 17th and 18th teams of the WNBA, some other teams that have been thrown around, or cities, I should say, Nashville, Detroit, Miami. Alicia, you already got your team in the Bay, but what about some other cities that you would like to see? I think Detroit would be fantastic.
Detroit would be fantastic. I actually would like to see Houston. I think
Houston would be
that
great. Well, teams that weren't already mentioned. Like
teams that weren't already okay. I still like the Nashville bid. I really do. I like the group that, you know, obviously Candace Parker being one of them that came together. I like the identity that they're already forming. Yeah, love the name. Love that it's in honor of Pat Summitt. Like I love all of that, but also the city of Nashville is just a really exciting, budding city. It's growing like no other.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people that live there, and they are they're like, I'll sign up for tickets tomorrow, you know? And so I can see that city being also somewhere that people would like to go. The cost of living is rising like it is in every city, but it's not like it would be like in the Bay Area, which is, you know, the conversation kind of around why they didn't get some free agents is maybe because the cost of living is so much higher there, which I totally understand as someone who has lived there for years. It is high. So there are a lot of things about Nashville that I think would be great for a W franchise for sure. So, you know, I love the way they did it. I'm sorry.
Bring back the Houston Comets.
And that, you know, no knock to Cleveland. I love that we're expanding in all of these ways, but I would have brought them back before I would even think, you know, I mean, I know there's so much history with the Rockers. I get it. I get that. But I also am just like, yo, the kind of dynasty, the amazing franchise that they built with the Comets. I mean, they were one of the reasons that there was so much growth in the W when it first, you know, came on the scene. I just, you think about the teams that were there, just everything that happened. You know, and Houston is a great city. Houston is a great city, and people would come out to support that team like they did the last time. So I don't know. I don't know. I would have personally liked to see that already happen, but I guess we're going to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting. Well, you know, we've been having some great conversation, and now we're going to have a little bit of fun with our conversation in this week's Candid Conversations. Survivor is going into like its millionth season, but no, it's the 48th season of Survivor is about to debut on February 26th, I believe. And that, you know, has us kind of wondering like which women's athlete or which female athletes, I guess we would say, would you like to see on Survivor? I have a good list, but I want to hear what you think. Like, there's so many that I can see.
Fun fact, I've never seen Survivor. I understand what the concept is. I've never watched it.
Okay. Not even one episode, a piece of an episode.
Never seen a single episode of Survivor.
Okay.
I do know what the concept is, though. I get it. It's like it's a reality show of basically Castaway, but just, you know.
It's a little bit more than, it's like a little bit more than Castaway.
Okay. Well, basically, like you on an isolated island, you gotta like fight for survival, and people can vote you off the island and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think Serena Williams would be badass on Survivor.
Yes.
That's both the Williams sisters. They could tag team and they could be like a whole force. I think she'd be absolutely killer. I think our girl, oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on her name? We just interviewed her. Well, you just interviewed her.
Ilona Maher. She's on mine.
She would be fantastic. Yeah, she'd be fantastic on Survivor. Yeah. I'm trying to think who else. I don't think Angel Reese would be good on it because she won't have, you know, her fashion and her makeup, and I feel her because that'd be me. I'd be crying. I'd be like, what do you mean I can't bring my Chanel? I need it.
I I'm sure that I'll need that in Survivor.
I'm trying to think. I feel like so many of the WNBA girls are such fashion girlies and just so love their hair, their makeup, and I don't think any of them would be good on Survivor if we're gonna beat Buck. I feel like they all need their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely don't have your stuff on Survivor.
Yeah, so I'm taking all the WNBA girlies out the mix. I don't think any of y'all would be good. No shade. That's not
No,
what
I can see Alyssa Thomas. I can see Alyssa Thomas. I feel like Alyssa, she's not like, she's very quiet or whatever, but like she's so dominant and she's strong. And I feel, and she, I don't know, I can just see her on there just like beasting through like all of the different competitions.
Brittany Griner's a fisher. Maybe she can do it.
Yeah, she does fish.
Yeah. Brittany Griner, I'll put her on the mix. Yeah, she'll be good because she can fish and probably like feed herself and stuff like that. So I'll put her in there. I think Layla Ali would be good.
I have one in soccer.
Okay, who?
Marta would kill in Survivor.
That's a good one.
You can't tell me nothing. She would have everything that she needed. She would create stuff from the ground up. She would just get some dirt, and just like create something that she needed to win a competition. She would go through all of it. Like, I can just see Marta on the island with like a spear, just waiting for them to come. Like, can't you?
I'm not mad at it. That's a good one. Okay, yeah. There's a few people on there. I know who would not be good on Survivor. This girl. So.
I think I would be good to a certain extent. Like, I would go on there, try my hardest, do everything that I could. Like, I don't know. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. You know what I'm saying? We got some outdoorsy things going on, but then when it got too hot, I would just be like, all right, guys, it's been fun. I'm gonna go back to where I need to go to, which is not here. Yes.
Yeah. I'm dead. Well, listen, guys, while we prepare our Survivor packs, we want to remind you to follow us on social media because we're not on an island and we do have our phones. So follow us on all of these platforms here. Make sure you are subscribed and tapped into us on YouTube, because if you missed any part of this episode, that is where you can find the full length episode and all previous episodes. And at the end of the show, make sure you scan the QR code, because if you are a podcast listener, we will be able to pop up wherever you get your pods. That's Spotify, that's Apple, because once again, we are not on Survivor and we do have technology.
Thank God for technology, right? Well, actually, that's a whole nother conversation. It can be a little detrimental, but we'll take it for right now. But make sure that you comment, like, subscribe, do all of the things. We actually want you in the comments to put who you think would be great on Survivor as well, because this conversation is not going to end here, just like all the conversations we have every week on We Need to Talk Now. So thank you for being here every week, and we will see you next week.